Now I welded that throwing star with oxygen and acetylene. That's an explosive combination. Hi, my name's Irrgang, that's spelled with an I. I'm 32 years old, 6'2", 240 pounds. I'm degreed and work as a mechanical engineer, and I want to tell you a little bit about myself. I realize you might not have time to watch this entire video, so let me tell you a little bit about how it's organized. First of all, I'm going to take you on a tour of my shop, and I'm going to point out some of my projects and hobbies along the way. And then towards the end of the video, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about my work experience. So this is the outside view of my 4,000 square foot climate controlled workshop. Here are the initial steps in the construction and the early interior work that I did. I designed this building. I hired some contractors who had heavy equipment and multiple hands to build the exterior portion, but it was not a kit. I sized all the beams, I designed the details of the various joints, and I purchased all the materials individually. After the contractors finished their part, I've been doing all the interior construction. There's not that much equipment in here right now because I have to leave room to move my scaffold and bulky materials around. Soon though, I'll have a mill and a lathe and a paint room. This is a steam engine I built quite a while back. I built it just because I had never seen a steam engine that worked quite on the same principle. Now I don't have any steam right now, but it will run slowly off compressed air so you can see what it looks like when it's moving. This is what it looked like with steam. And by the way, you might have noticed my hat. This is Rascal. I've done a little bit of taxidermy work too. You can see all the stitching in here. And since you guys are in California, I'll give you a little bit of a secret. No animals were harmed during the creation of Rascal. He died of natural causes on the highway, and I just happened to be by early enough to scrape him up, take him home, and immortalize him in the way that any raccoon would be proud of. One of my main interests is motorcycles. You can see that I'm rebuilding this motorcycle right now. This is one that I've had for quite a while, and I'm just rebuilding it to restore the performance. I've got the cylinders off over there. I've pressed the sleeves out. I'm going to put new sleeves in and bore it to new pistons. This custom motorcycle was featured in 2 magazines, having a centerfold spread in one. The seat, fender, and gas tank are all used Harley parts. I made the oil tank. I made all the controls. I made the exhaust system. I made this little switch box and did all the wiring. It's truly a custom motorcycle. Here are some photos to show the ground-up construction from machining to frame building to paint and wiring.
Can you start it up for us, dude?
Hold on. Oh, God. Get out of your ears.
This is a motorcycle that I built a sidecar for. The sidecar is not complete yet. It's still under construction. Eventually it'll end up being painted. This edge will be lined. It'll have a little windshield. It'll have a fender. It's aluminum, 1/16 inch thick aluminum on the top and sides. The front is 3/16 inch thick. I had modeled these surfaces in Pro Engineer before I got started, and I used that as a template. I flattened the parts in Pro and I printed them out full scale to where I sawed these sides out with a jigsaw, just a handheld reciprocating jigsaw, as well as the floor. And I rolled the radius on the floor. So there's some aluminum angle and aluminum square tubing inside that I welded up, and then the sheets are riveted to that. I made these stainless steel clamps, which clamp around the frame tubes. There's an axle, which I turned from a stainless steel bar. The axle is rigidly attached to the sidecar. This is my very heavy-duty work table. It weighs about 500 pounds. The last third of the tabletop is a 1/2-inch thick steel plate. This here is my practice arm wrestling table that I used to train for tournaments.
Get back with it. Get your arm.
Come through the B side and still.
Get up on it. Woo! Go. Come on. Come on, Adam. Stay with it, Adam. Come on, Adam. Stay with it. Go. Come on, Adam. Come on, Irrgang. Stay with it. Stay with it, Irrgang. Stay with it. Stay with your arm, Irrgang. Come on.
This This exercise is called lock work. In arm wrestling, it's very important to be able to hold your arm in a fixed position against a static load from your opponent so you can use your body to pull him across the table. So in this exercise, I'm going to apply a static load to my bicep from this 100-pound dumbbell. So right now there's very little load on my bicep since the weight is just going directly down into my elbow into the table. But as I lean forward, I'm building up that static load. So right now I've got that 100 pounds of force on my bicep. I'm just off the table, and then I can come up with my body. That's lock work. These days I only work out at home. These are some of the weights I have.
Doing dips with 4 45-pound plates. 424-pound raw bench press at a meet.
On the B platform. 3 whites on.
Here's a project I think you'll find interesting. I wanted an interactive target to shoot at, so I made this plate rack. And what this is it has a series of discs, steel discs, that I can shoot at, and they'll fall over, and then I pull a rope to reset them. So here's a closer look at that mechanism. The discs are all mounted to a shaft that they can pivot on. And so when they fall over, they land on this pad on the back. And so that pad is pivoting about the same point and has a spring, and the rope is on a couple of pulleys. And so the rope pulls that pad up and resets the targets. One of the reasons I find this target to be an interesting project is I didn't just build the target, I actually built the entire shed behind me just to keep the target out of the rain. This is my circuit breaker box. I've done all the wiring inside this building. I have 10 220 volt circuits and 11 110 volt circuits. So far I've used about 2,500 feet of wire and counting. This is going to be the shop air compressor.
40 CFMs at 175 PSI.
This is my wood stove. My primary source of heat for the shop and the house is firewood. This wood stove started out as a kit, but I expanded on it to attach this oil burner. I can burn used motor oil in addition to wood. And I also made a special collapsing rack so that I can fit it in through the door and then unfold it inside the stove.
We've got trees.
This is my table saw. It's largely my own design. This one little portion here I bought used. It's an antique really, but I built the frame and the tabletop. I also made this square for it. And I also made a kind of a unique kind of fence. Take a look at this. It slides along this channel, and then it has toggle clamps to lock it in place. These are some custom darts I made out of babinga wood and crow feathers. I like to be able to make little devices to help me with my hobbies. This is a grip comparator that I made, which allows 2 people to go head to head to see who has a stronger grip. One thing that I like to do for fitness is sometimes I'll take my rowboat out for a few miles at a time. So I wanted some oars that were long enough to give me some resistance and really help move the boat through the water. So I actually made these. These are 9 foot long, and they're made out of a single 2x6. If you take a look, I made a handmade steel oar lock, which helps anchor the oar to the boat.
Well, before you put that one on there,
What do you want me to do?
spin it around, see how it looks. There you go. See those chickens fit on those square poles, pipes with beer in them.
That's right.
I built this 10,000-pound brick smoker grill which can cook over 100 pounds of meat at a time.
We buy meat by the cow. This is my reloading station. This is where I make all my ammunition. Let me show you the cabinet that I built. Up top here I have all my gunpowders and dyes. In the middle I have a tool compartment. And then at the bottom are all the bullets and the presses and whatnot. Before I ever started reloading my own ammunition, I did quite a bit of testing with factory ammunition of various types. These are all different types of factory ammunition. I fired them all into various surfaces. I fired them through a chronograph to measure their velocity, and the hollow point bullets I fired into water to test their expansion. That hits harder than the Sabo. I like shooting things. Welcome to the woods of my 115-acre Texas property. Here we're looking across the 20-acre meadow on my 115-acre Texas property. All the trees you see in the background are the beginnings of my woods.
There's also a stability deal on there.
I want to get this thing running.
Alright. Always busy, dude. Always busy.
So this is some of my auxiliary homebrewing equipment. I have a second primary fermenter, some more carboys. This is my mash tun for all grain beers, and then the yellow thing behind it is my work chiller. I've been brewing my own beer and wine for several years now. I've made 400 to 500 gallons. You can see this shelf is entirely filled with beer. On the top of these Coca-Cola bottles is some black rye IPA. Down here you can see some of my brewing equipment. I've brewed beer using recipes. I've made my own recipes. I've made extract kits. I've done all grain beer. I've even malted my own grains. So now I'm going to show you the storm shelter, which serves two purposes. So you can see there's a fair amount of wine storage in here. So this is all homemade wine. Now certainly I'll use CAD every time I design something at work, but frequently at home hand drawings are sufficient. Here's a picture of a black powder dueling pistol that I'm going to make, which I prototyped by designing a small Derringer. So here's my black powder Derringer. It's still under construction, but I have test fired it and it does work. I put this together when I was 13 years old. I wanted a bicycle that I didn't have to pedal, so I mounted a little tiller engine to it, and it actually still works. This is actually my drag bike. I haven't raced it in several years. Before I hot rodded it, I took it solo on a 9,000-mile cross-country trip in 3 weeks when I was 20 years old.
I love to get things really sharp, so I shave with a straight razor. Watch as this one passes the hanging hair test.
Okay, so there's the hair. Alright, cut. Cut again. "25% of the building is walled off for my wife's work area. I'm still in the middle of framing this section. You can see I've installed central heat and air. The rest of the shop is climate controlled as well.
I've done all the framing, electrical, and plumbing myself.
In this portion of the building, you can see that there's going to be a loft, an upstairs area.
Let me give you a brief rundown of some of the different job positions I've held, and then we'll take a quick look at some of the work projects that I've worked on. I started my career in 1996 while I was still in high school by taking a job as a draftsman at a little company called TechPro Designs. TechPro is in the business of designing injection molds, which are the machines that produce high-volume plastic parts. After I was at TechPro for about a year, TechPro was bought by a company called First Tech Molding. At First Tech, my primary responsibility was still injection mold design, but I also got a little more first-hand experience into the production side. It was also at First Tech that I first began to help customers with product design. In 1998, First Tech Molding bought a tool shop called Fast Tool Technologies. I moved my mold design efforts to Fast Tool. This is also where I picked up the majority of my machining experience. Fast Tool was a high-precision machine shop, and when design work was light, I was right out there with the machinists working the machines. There were also many late nights where I took advantage of the shop's capabilities to work on my own personal projects. While working at Fast Tool, I was taking classes part-time at a community college. Soon I decided I wanted to go to the university, and the commute to Fast Tool would be too far, so I started looking for jobs elsewhere. I found Design Edge. I worked at Design Edge from 1998 to 2003. This is where I became a real expert with Pro Engineer. Nearly all of my coworkers were degreed mechanical engineers while I was still in college. Design Edge hired me based on my plastics experience because the majority of the products they designed would be molded on injection molds. By the time I finally graduated from the university, I had worked at Design Edge for 4.5 years, and I was leading multiple degreed engineers on the projects I was working. After Design Edge, I spent 6 months working for a company called Accelerated Technologies. Accelerated Technologies was in the business of making all kinds of prototypes. We would make 1 or 2 parts at a time using processes like SLS and SLA. We could make batches of from 10 to maybe 200 parts using thermoset plastic casting. And we could make from 100 to several thousand parts by cutting a lot of corners out of the injection molding process to make it affordable for our customers. I, once again, worked as the primary injection mold designer. I also had other responsibilities where Accelerated Technologies leveraged my experience in designing consumer products to help their inventor customers complete their designs. For the last 8 years, I've been leading designs to aircraft structure for a defense contractor that I won't be discussing any further. This is a sampling of work from my prior jobs in consumer product development and injection mold design. These images show a wall-mounted 3M projector that I worked on for 2 years. I've worked on barcode scanners and fingerprint readers, multiple prototypes, a very complex computer printer.
Thanks for watching. I'm Adam Irrgang. I can do whatever it takes to solve the challenges you're going to be able to come up with for us. Most engineers tend to be pretty interesting people, but you're not going to find another one like me.